This is the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather reporting. Good evening. Shots across the bow tonight for Exxon Corporation's latest announcement on what it plans to do and not do about its huge oil spill in Alaska. More than a month after an Exxon tanker hit a reef and gushed 11 million gallons of oil, consumer protests mounted and some politicians called for a federal investigation into sudden gasoline price increases. And one top Alaskan official tonight characterized Exxon's newest plan as containing, quote, elements of arrogance, of patronizing, of an unwillingness to redress the injury. Correspondent John Blackstone reports.
Exxon's revised plan was explained in detail in Valdez today, but the head of the Coast Guard says the plan still may not be complete. And in the plan, the company itself has admitted new difficulties.
Rocky shorelines are a real challenge as far as the cleanup effort.
The plan says 3,400 workers will be able to scour the oil off more than 350 miles of beaches by the mid-September deadline. But for the first time, Exxon admits it won't even attempt to clean almost 200 miles of beaches. That job will be left to nature. The company now recognizes that work crews will be idle as much as half the time due to weather delays and other logistical problems. Another problem is waste disposal. What to do with the sludge that's recovered. Exxon is seeking permission to burn or bury that waste, but that may require suspension of laws that protect the environment.
Burning would be one way of disposing of that, which might require, as indicated, some relaxation of some air quality.
Coast Guard Commandant Paul Yost today arrived in Valdez to study the cleanup proposal. He rejected an earlier plan as incomplete and said it's too soon to know if the new one will be acceptable.
The plan is very thin. There's not a lot of backup and substantiation to some of the assumptions or figures.
Stop flying! Start cleaning! Stop flying! Start cleaning!
In Anchorage today, demonstrators marched in front of Exxon's Alaskan headquarters, but the anger against the company is spreading nationally.
Exxon kills! Exxon spills!
Today, critics called for a one-day consumer boycott of Exxon.
This is a one-day boycott just to say, listen, something has to be done.
To get across its side of the story, Exxon is satelliting its own reports from Valdez.
The effort is already ahead of the September 15th deadline for finishing the work in Prince William Sound.
But few share Exxon's optimism about the latest cleanup plan. John Blackstone, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Panama is to hold a presidential election Sunday, but today President Bush rejected the results in advance, calling the election a fraud. As CBS News White House correspondent Leslie Stahl reports, President Bush was trying to reinvigorate his failed campaign to overthrow dictator and international drug-smuggling suspect Manuel Noriega.
Launching a new attack on the man the U.S. has been trying to drive from power for more than a year, President Bush accused Manuel Noriega of rigging this Sunday's Panamanian election. And he called on U.S. allies to join him in condemning what he called the massive fraud.
The Noriega regime continues to threaten and intimidate Panamanians who believe in democracy.
In the last 10 days, incidents have increased dramatically.
To bolster the administration's case against Noriega, the State Department released a laundry list of alleged violations, including doctoring of voter registration lists and ballots, invalidating the ID cards of opposition voters, issuing multiple IDs to Noriega's supporters, election bombings engineered by Noriega but blamed on the opposition. But is there anything the U.S. can do?
Let me be clear. The United States will not recognize the results of a fraudulent election engineered simply to keep Noriega in power.
Truth is, the U.S. has not recognized the Panamanian government for over a year. One White House official said the best we can hope for is to convince Panamanians that Noriega is stealing the election and ignite a popular uprising similar to the overthrowing of Ferdinand Marcos in the Philippines.
I think as a practical matter, the only thing we can do is ask the world community to focus their attention on this election and to expose it as the sham and as the fraud that we know that it will be.
Sources say the Secretaries of State and Defense met yesterday to discuss, quote, hardline, possibly military options, but no final decisions yet on taking action against what officials call the drug-dealing dictator. Leslie Stahl, CBS News, the White House.
The jury completed 10 days of deliberations today in the Oliver North criminal trial. Again today, no verdict. Whatever the jury finally decides, documented evidence at the trial has raised new doubts and new questions about what Ronald Reagan and George Bush say they did or didn't know, or did or didn't do, about secret, possibly law-breaking aid to the Nicaraguan rebels after missile sales to Iran. CBS News correspondent Eric Ingberg has been following the new paper trail.
Congressional investigators say White House records reveal that the North trial raised new questions about whether U.S. foreign aid was used improperly by the Reagan administration to keep the Contra war alive, and then covered up by lies to the Congress.
If the documents are what they seem to be, then it is very difficult to conclude anything other than that we were grossly misled.
The paper trail centers on Honduras, a country which provided the Contras a base and weapons. In 1985, Honduras is balking at continuing the support because the U.S. Congress has stopped funding the war. February 7th, Oliver North suggests a plan to offer enticements to keep the Hondurans in the war. February 19th, the plan to give incentives to Honduras is initialed RR, apparent presidential approval. February 27th, the White House letter is drafted to the Secretaries of State, Defense, and the CIA chief, laying out plans to give the Hondurans $35 million in foreign aid, which was being held back because Honduras wasn't reforming its economy. 2 weeks later, March 16th, Vice President Bush visits Honduran President Suazo. 2 weeks after that, on April 1st, the U.S., in an unusually swift fund transfer, sends $35 million in embargoed foreign aid. On April 18th, another $20 million is released. The questions center on Secretary of State Schultz's testimony before a congressional committee in 1987 that the State Department was not aware of and did not participate in any attempt to condition foreign aid to other countries on their support for the conference. Questions about George Bush, which he's refused to answer, center on what he told the Honduran president.
We need to know whether, in fact, he was involved and whether or not we were told the truth about his involvement.
Has the president told you personally that there was no quid pro quo?
Yes, he has.
And he's ready to stand on that?
Yes, he is.
The White House says still secret cables and eyewitnesses can back that up. But the congressional investigators say some tall explaining is needed of how the aid money was pushed out the door so fast once the incentives plan was okayed. Eric Engberg, CBS News, Washington.
Straight ahead on tonight's CBS Evening News, Doug Tennell on a possible concession to Israel from Yasser Arafat, and Tom Fenton on Hungary's concession to democracy. A piece of the Iron Curtain comes down.
When my arthritis pain acts up, even little things are a big effort. But I don't take aspirin anymore. I take Advil. Advil is the brand many doctors recommend for hours of relief from minor arthritis pain. You know, just one Advil is as effective as 2 regular aspirin. And Advil doesn't upset my stomach the way aspirin sometimes can. So now, I don't even have to think about arthritis. Advil, tablets and caplets, advanced medicine for pain.
Imagine it's lunchtime. That's time for a change of pace at Red Lobster.
We'll make your mouth water.
With luscious lunch specials, many under $4.99.
Make your heart melt.
And served in 15 minutes guaranteed, or it's free.
Make you flip with every dip, feel like you've never felt.
So much that's delicious. Seafood pasta, or today's fresh catch at Red Lobster. Imagine it for lunch tomorrow. Try our lunch shrimp trio, just $4.95.
This is a phone. This is a finger. This is how easy it is for anyone to get 100% fiber optic long-distance calls that cost less than AT&T and sound better. Just call US Sprint now and talk with the best.
This is smooth, creamy yogurt. And this is how your taste buds see it. Add the nutty, crunchy taste of Post Grape Nuts, the cereal with oomph, and send your taste buds on a wild adventure. Oomph it up with Grape Nuts.
Yasser Arafat arrived in France today on an official visit that was bitterly protested by Israel. President Mitterrand invited the PLO chief in what he said was a bid to break the deadlock in the Middle East peace process. As Doug Tennell reports, the opening talks produce what may prove to be a breakthrough.
It was just the kind of apparent concession from Yasser Arafat that the French government had hoped for. Arafat said on French TV tonight he considered the controversial charter of the PLO that calls for the destruction of Israel to be null and void. President Francois Mitterrand reportedly pressed Arafat on the issue of the charter during talks today. A presidential spokesman said Mitterrand had pointed out the contradiction between Arafat's renunciation of terrorism and the charter's threat to Israel's existence. Arafat's remarks may help to cool some of the mounting anger surrounding his visit here, but not all of it. The French Jewish community, the largest in Western Europe, is in an uproar. Behind their anger is the fear that Yasser Arafat's first official visit to a major Western power was another big blow to Israel even before the trip began.
I think it's a symbol also of the extent to which the Palestinian cause has now achieved a kind of international legitimacy which it never had before.
Thousands of PLO supporters, many of them from France's large Arab community, rallied in favor of Arafat's visit today. Meanwhile, some French Jews resorted to a traditional Palestinian protest, pulling down the shutters on their shops in the middle of the day, West Bank style. But what angered Israel's supporters here the most wasn't that France was about to give any major diplomatic concession to the PLO. It was that the French government would offer Yasser Arafat a prominent place on the world stage on this particular day. This is the one day each year when, for a few moments, faces grow especially somber. The streets of Israel fall silent, and an entire people mourns the victims of a Holocaust. Doug Tennell, CBS News, Paris.
A masked assassin today shot the PLO's top official in Lebanon. 48-year-old Issam Salim was critically wounded. No one has yet claimed responsibility. Israeli troops wounded at least 21 Palestinians during trouble in the occupied territories today. Among the casualties were a 7-year-old girl shot in the head and 2 other children beaten with clubs and rifle butts. As Bob Simon reports, Arab children are not just victims of the uprising. They are, at least to the Arabs, its heroes.
It was the miraculous return of Mohammed, a living legend, come home to his refugee camp near Bethlehem. The 17-year-old boy was shot in the abdomen last August, lost his intestines. He was given up for dead, but survived 3 operations here, was taken to Boston for more surgery, and refused to die as tales of his bravery and immortality spread through an area not unaccustomed to adoration of the child. Mohammed Abu Akher is not listed on any PLO committee in Tunis. He is the homebred vanguard of the revolt. Dead Palestinians become martyrs, survivors become heroes. Israelis once had, or thought they had, a monopoly on macho in this part of the world. It's been stolen from them by a bunch of kids. Many call themselves the Palestinian Cubs, and they're getting younger and younger. Many of their older brothers are in Israeli jails, and the PLO realizes that putting children on the street puts the Israelis in a tactical, psychological, and public relations quandary. The Israeli army was trained to deal with Syrians, not with 6-year-olds.
It's not easy to raise your M16 and to see at your sight a target of a 6-year-old.
But what 6-year-old hasn't dreamt of taking on an army single-handedly? That's what these boys are doing in their lives and in their games. This one is called Army and Arab. Not difficult to tell who's who. For Gaza kids, the line between fantasy and reality has been erased. What's been lost? Childhood, for a start.
Children are being much more aggressive with each other than normal children do when they're playing. They just don't know anything different, and they don't see anything different anymore.
The example of Palestinian bravado seems to have tempted many Israeli kids into a new game called road roulette, dashing in front of trains and cars, defying death and sometimes finding it. 2 have been killed, many injured, as nice Israeli boys try to look as tough as the kids in the camps.
The boys want to show the girls that they know that they have the guts to do it.
They're trying to show in the same sense that not just the Palestinians can do something dangerous. So also the Israelis. Each country has its own craziness.
It may seem like craziness to send kids against an army, but it has proven to be a potent and confusing weapon in a land which has always venerated the brave boy with a slingshot. Bob Simon, CBS News, Gaza. When constipation plus hemorrhoids twists you in knots, try Haley's MO, the gentle laxative plus a soothing ingredient, so it lubricates for easier relief. Haley's MO, the laxative even gentle enough for hemorrhoid sufferers.
I stained this last year, and it's fading already. Why?
You didn't use Water Seal Stain, the only stain with Thompson's Water Seal. It seals water out and protects against fading, so the next time you stain won't be for a long time. Thompson's Water Seal Stain.
One of the problems of living in the land of plenty is that there's plenty left over that must be burned or buried or dumped at sea. An exception is the recyclable aluminum can. Today, over half the aluminum cans produced are being recycled. No other beverage container comes close to that record. Not glass, not plastic, and not steel. Recyclable aluminum can. In the land of plenty, it's a notable exception.
Ladies, now you can stop shaving and enjoy beautiful hair-free legs for weeks at a time with the Lady Remington Smooth and Silky Rechargeable Hair Removal System. Its hygienic rotating roller quickly removes hair below the skin. Lady Remington.
Of course I killed them. I just aimed, shot, and killed those little creeps myself.
New faster killing Black Flag Ant and Roach Killer kills with an exterminator-proven ingredient.
Their kind deserve to die.
Black Flag.
Minneapolis officials today evacuated a 6-block area as a major lumberyard fire threatened at least one 1,000-gallon propane tank. Authorities also feared some buildings in the yard house hazardous chemicals. 2 young boys reportedly were taken into custody after a mother said her son and a friend built what they called a campfire, which got out of control in the lumberyard. Tonight, a look at the rippling impact of a $1 billion budget cut, the money and politics and the jobs at stake in a Defense Department proposal to cut funding for something called the V-22 Osprey. James Hattori reports on a hard landing for this new aircraft and the people who built it.
It's a helicopter, it's a plane, and it's in trouble. With continued funding in doubt, Bell Textron is poised to announce it will lay off 2,500 workers from the Navy's $40 billion V-22 Osprey tilt rotor program.
It's a pretty important project, and, you know, everybody'd hate to lose it, but it looks like it's out the door right now.
Both the military and commercial airlines covet the tilt rotor aircraft, the ability to take off and hover like a helicopter, then tilt its engines and fly like an airplane. But last month, Defense Secretary Dick Cheney dropped the Osprey from next year's budget, a savings of $1.2 billion.
I think the V-22 is an interesting concept. I think it's probably a good aircraft. I could not justify spending the amount of money that was proposed to be spent.
Bell Textron worries about losing a lucrative contract and losing the tilt rotor technology to foreign competitors.
It loses an opportunity to be first in the export market.
And other people pick up the technology and go ahead and develop it, and we end up buying it back from them.
Bell Textron says the layoffs could come in a matter of days. Insiders say the company may be trying to stir up some political heat in a last-minute attempt to save the project.
So when liberal Democrats talk about slashing defense spending, they're not just talking about America losing ground. They're talking about Americans losing jobs.
Republicans made defense jobs an issue during last year's presidential election.
Bush said that if Democrats got in there, that we was going to lose it. Well, Republicans got in there. That's telling you something right there.
The Osprey's fate may rest in the hands of Democrats, including House Speaker Jim Wright, in whose district the aircraft is being built, but who now faces problems of his own. And without some serious arm twisting and Texas politicking, the Osprey may never get off the ground. James Hattori, CBS News, Dallas.
Motor Trend's Car of the Year Award. The automotive industry has always taken it seriously. And 3 of the last 4 years, Ford has taken it home. This is Ford's latest award winner, the new Thunderbird SC. It's not only Motor Trend's 1989 Car of the Year, it's further evidence Ford is winning the world over.
Have you driven a Ford lately?
Guess what? There's no bathroom on the bus.
Relax.
The diarrhea usually comes back.
Took the Imodium AD, didn't you?
Yeah, but just a little cup.
perfect.
Imodium AD often stops diarrhea with one dose, instead of all those spoonfuls you may need of the leading remedy.
I'm in a rest stop.
You coming?
Nope, I'm fine.
Imodium AD. It can make your first attack of diarrhea your last.
The next time you have a glass of orange juice, tomato, or grapefruit, think about this. You get more of 7 important vitamins and minerals in a glass of great-tasting Sunsweet prune juice. Sunsweet. Here's to your health.
We think the new 1989 John Deere walk-behind is terrific, but take it for a little test drive. Try it for a full month. If you're not completely happy, return it.
This is some offer.
It's some mower.
President Bush made a key U.S. trade and foreign policy decision today. He approved U.S. subsidies on the sale of 1.5 million tons of wheat to the Soviet Union. This followed intense debate inside the Bush administration about the political and economic wisdom of such a deal at a time when U.S. wheat supplies are at their lowest since 1974. Sources have told CBS News White House correspondent Leslie Stahl tonight that in an effort to satisfy opponents of this subsidized grain deal, the Soviets have agreed to buy another 1.5 million tons next summer without U.S. subsidies. A new jolt today to the Louisiana state economy. It's been a year since Democratic Governor Buddy Roemer swept into office on a platform of economic overhaul and reform and swept out the let the good times roll administration of Edwin Edwards. Saturday, voters of Louisiana rejected Governor Roemer's tax overhaul package. Today, as CBS News correspondent Peter Van Sant reports, the people of Louisiana found out what that could cost them.
The blues on the streets of New Orleans are now being sung in the governor's mansion after voters resoundingly rejected new taxes, digging Louisiana's already troubled economy ever deeper in debt and forcing reform-minded Governor Buddy Roemer to scramble his way out of a new financial crisis.
I would have rather rebuilt roads and schools and our future, but we didn't quite get that done. So now under the law, I've got to look at about $700 million in cuts.
The massive cuts will be felt across virtually all income levels. The poor will see dozens of vocational schools disappear and several charity hospitals which treat the penniless shut down.
If charity hospital has to close, then it's going to fall on the private sector to assume that responsibility. And I don't think they're prepared to do that either.
Hardest hit will be education in a state which already has one of the nation's worst school systems. Funding for colleges and universities will be gutted by more than $110 million.
And we will definitely have to close some institutions, some of our colleges and universities.
Pay raises for the state school teachers, among the lowest paid anywhere, have been canceled.
You can't live off of dreams, and you can't live off of promises. The bills come, and they have to be paid.
Other casualties in the spending cuts include road improvements and the jobs of more than 3,000 state employees.
With that kind of damage, I think we're going to see just the state slumping further into being the kind of Haiti of the United States.
I think it's going to really affect the psyche of Louisiana to realize that it's another poor southern state.
There are new ideas for raising money, including a state lottery. But for now, Louisiana's economy is one long sour note. Peter Van Sant, CBS News, Baton Rouge.
Looking for whole wheat total?
Oh, Special K.
Hope you're hungry, because you'll need almost 3 boxes of Special K to equal the vitamin and mineral nutrition in just 1 box of total.
Maybe grape nuts.
You'll have to put away 4 boxes.
Okay. Shredded wheat.
12 boxes. Total, 1 bowl, 100%. No other cereal has more vitamin and mineral nutrition.
I think I'll have Total, sweetheart. Total.
If it's whole wheat total, it's total nutrition.
When people count on you, count on Post-it brand notes.
Ready?
In a minute, honey.
It's nice to be noticed for what you wear and how you look. And if you wear dentures, it's nice to know Efferdent freshens up dentures and cleans away stains so well. With Efferdent, all they'll notice is you.
How strong is Extra Strength Tums EX? Heartburn strikes, Tums strikes back. Heartburn's gone that fast. Tums EX, twice as strong, twice as fast as regular Rolaids.
China's student protests spread to Shanghai today. 6,000 students blocked traffic in front of Shanghai government offices, calling for democracy and freedom. In Beijing, student leaders rode their bikes to government headquarters to deliver an ultimatum. They gave communist leaders 24 hours to recognize their new independent student union, or else they'll hold another mass demonstration Thursday. The changing face of communism. In 1946, Winston Churchill said an iron curtain was descending across the continent of Europe. Today, the Iron Curtain began to part. Tom Fenton reports.
In an historic move, Communist Hungary today began tearing down 212 miles of the Iron Curtain. The barbed wire and electrified fence that separated from neutral Austria will be gone by the end of the year. Hungary will be the first East Bloc country with an open border to the west. Hungary is trying to become Eastern Europe's first democracy. The old Parliament building is being refurbished to house a Western-style government similar to Britain's. Opposition parties have been legalized. Free elections are promised by early next year. Circumstances are forcing the Communist Party to give up its monopoly of power. The engine for reform is the economy. Living standards have fallen to the level of the early 1970s, and to get by, many Hungarians need 2 or even 3 jobs. Communism has been an economic disaster. The revolution of the proletariat is giving way to the revolution of rising expectations. Hungarians see a free market economy as the only way to improve living standards, and democracy as the only way to make a free market work.
It is a silent revolution. This is the collapse of the communist system.
A new breed of Hungarian politicians is learning the rules of democracy after 40 years of one-party rule. Leaders of the anti-communist opposition know they're advancing through a potential minefield.
It can happen that after a half year, if you return, you will see a military government with a new martial law in Hungary.
But these are heady times in Hungary. The intelligentsia and the younger generation, like medical student Kathleen Vardy, see this as an historic opportunity to change the course of history.
We know what we don't want and we know what we want. So I think that our generation is a good generation, and we will change Hungary tomorrow.
The older generation briefly shared the same hopes until Russian tanks crushed Hungary's earlier experiment in democracy. The leaders of the 1956 anti-communist rebellion were shot and dumped into anonymous graves. In another historic move by the government, they are now to be given a decent burial. But the generation that remembers is asking whether history will repeat itself. Tom Fenton, CBS News, Budapest.
And that's tonight's CBS Evening News. Dan Rather. See you tomorrow. Good night.
I'm Harry Smith.
And I'm Kathleen Sullivan. Tomorrow, how one country is solving the abortion right-to-life controversy.
Also, Jerry Marsden remembers Jerry and the Pacemakers on CBS This Morning.
This is CBS.